I met Ethan when I was 22 years old, fresh out of university with a literature degree and dreams of becoming a novelist. I worked at a small bookstore, tucked into a quiet corner of the city. It wasn't glamorous, but it was peaceful, and I loved every creaky shelf and dusty spine. He came in on a Tuesday afternoon. The first thing I noticed was his voice. Calm, low, like a story being whispered. He asked me where he could find a book on modern architecture. I led him to the shelf and noticed the way he scanned each title with deliberate care, like he was searching for something specific. We talked about books, cities, how buildings tell stories just like people do. He bought 3 books that day and came back the next. And the day after that, within a week, we had coffee. Within a month, he knew the names of my siblings, my dreams, and my fears. And within a year, we were married. Everyone said it was fast. Too fast, but it felt right. Ethan was gentle, thoughtful. He remembered the little things, like how I preferred my tea barely warm and how I always sat by the window on rainy days. I thought I had found my forever person. We moved into a modest townhouse on the edge of the city. I wrote freelance articles and worked part-time at the bookstore. Ethan had a stable job as a consultant for a development company. He traveled often, but always called me every night, sometimes twice. For the first 3 years, our life was smooth. We laughed often. We shared meals, dreams, and plans for the future. We talked about having children one day, but there was no rush. Or so I thought. One evening, Ethan came home from a trip to Chicago. He was quiet, more distant than usual. I asked if something happened, but he smiled and said it was just work stress. I let it go. Then, the small changes began. He started taking longer trips. His phone rarely left his side. He became easily irritated, even at harmless questions. He stopped talking about the future, stopped noticing the little things. One night, while he was asleep, his phone lit up. A message from someone named Marissa. Can't wait to see you again. The kids miss you. My stomach dropped. The kids. I stared at the message for a long time, willing it to disappear, hoping I misread it. But I hadn't. I didn't confront him right away. I needed answers, proof, clarity. So I started digging. Sssssss, emails, travel records, social media accounts. I even tracked the hotel bookings he made using our shared credit card. What I found tore my heart apart. For the past 2 years, Ethan had been living a double life. In another city, with another woman, Marissa, and 2 children. A boy and a girl, ages 3 and 1. His children. He wasn't just cheating. He had another family, a parallel life, built on lies. I couldn't breathe. I printed out everything, every receipt, every photo, every text message I could recover. I stared at the stack of evidence for hours, unsure what to feel. Anger, betrayal, devastation, confusion, all of it, at once. I finally confronted him a week later. He didn't deny it. He sat there, silent as I laid everything out on the dining table. When I asked him why, he said nothing, just stared at his hands. I asked if he ever loved me. He said, I did, but things changed. That was the moment I realized I had been married to a ghost. The man I loved, the man I shared my life with, never truly existed. He was a projection, a shadow, a carefully built illusion. I moved out the next day. I packed only what I needed, left behind my wedding dress, our photo albums, the little notes we used to leave each other. They were all lies now. I moved in with my sister, while I tried to rebuild myself from the ruins. But this isn't a story about how I fell apart. This is a story about how I rose again, and made sure the truth destroyed the mask he so carefully wore. Then I clicked it. I expected silence. But the reply came the next morning. Please, tell me everything. We agreed to meet in public. A cafe downtown. I arrived early, ordered coffee I didn't drink. She arrived 10 minutes later. She looked younger than me, softer, Tired. She sat down without a word. I slid the folder across the table. She opened it, read, page by page, her hand covering her mouth. When she finished, she asked one question. Did he ever say he loved you? I nodded. She looked down. He told me his wife died. My breath caught. He didn't just lie by omission. He killed me in his story. That afternoon, we sat together for hours. Two strangers connected by the same betrayal. Same man, same lies. We cried. We laughed bitterly. We compared stories, dates, gifts he repeated, lines he recycled. He had been meticulous, but not perfect. I asked her what she planned to do. She said she needed time. So did I. Fame was never my intention. I didn't write the book for recognition. I wrote it because it was the only way. I knew how to stitch the torn parts of myself back together. But when the book hit the shelves, it struck a nerve with thousands of people, mostly women, who had lived different versions of my pain. Emails poured in. Messages flooded my socials. Book clubs discussed my story. A major network wanted the rights to adapt it into a series. And yet, amidst all that noise, I remained grounded, because deep down, I remembered what it felt like to be invisible, to lie in bed, next to a man who smiled while his soul was absent, to be gaslighted until I doubted my own instincts. Now the world saw me, but more importantly, I saw myself. I moved into a small place of my own, a bright apartment with sun streaming through the kitchen window, plants growing on the sill, and silence that healed, not hurt. I painted the walls myself, bought mismatched furniture from thrift shops. I made it my sanctuary. Ethan's trial dragged on for months. He pled not guilty at first. Of course he did. Men like him think they can lie their way out of everything. But the evidence was airtight. Between Marissa and me, we had built a narrative so solid it couldn't be denied. He was sentenced to 18 months in federal prison for fraud and identity misuse. Nothing dramatic, just enough to remove him from the world he tried to control. I didn't attend the sentencing. I didn't need to. The punishment wasn't the prison. The punishment was being unmasked. I heard from a mutual acquaintance that he had started seeing another woman from inside the prison, writing her letters, promising a future. Some patterns never change, but they're not mine to fix anymore. Marissa and I stayed in touch. We weren't friends in the conventional sense, but we understood each other on a level that no one else could. We shared holidays sometimes. The kids grew to love me like an aunt. She rebuilt her life too, got a job at a non-profit, started therapy, found peace in routine. One afternoon, she invited me to a school recital. Her daughter had a solo part in a play. When the little girl saw me in the audience, she waved so hard she nearly fell off the stage. I cried quietly, not because I missed what could have been, but because I was finally part of something honest. Years passed. My book was adapted into a mini-series. I consulted on the script. The actress who played me asked if she could meet the real woman behind the words. I said yes. She expected someone fragile, someone still angry. Instead, she met someone free. She told me I inspired her. Funny how life works. One man tried to erase me, but in the aftermath, I became more visible than ever, and I never once had to scream. There was one last thing I needed to do. A letter arrived in the mail. I recognized the handwriting instantly. It was from Ethan. I hesitated, then opened it. It wasn't an apology. Of course not. It was a plea. He told me prison had been hard, that he lost everything, that he missed the life we had, that he thought about me every day, that he didn't understand how it all spiraled so far. There was no accountability, only regret that he got caught. I didn't respond. Instead, I took the letter and walked to the riverbank near my apartment. It was spring. The trees were beginning to bloom. I tore the pages into pieces and let the wind carry them away. I didn't need closure from him. I was my own closure. Now, I teach writing workshops for women, survivors, dreamers, late bloomers, women who lost their voices and are learning to whisper again. I tell them stories have power. Not just the ones we read, but the ones we live. I tell them pain is a chapter, not the ending. I tell them the truth. You can rise from betrayal. You can rebuild from ashes. You can love yourself more fiercely than anyone ever could. And if you're lucky, you'll meet someone who doesn't need to lie to love you. But if you don't, that's okay too. Because the strongest love is the one you give yourself when no one else knows how. My name is Claire, and I was once the wife of a man who lived a lie. But now, I'm the author of my own story. And every